Welcome to Big Valley Living. Today we're going to go over pressure canning and water bath canning and look at the differences between the two. Let's get after it. So there are really three kinds of canning, but they fall into two. You have pressure canning, which cans it under pressure, gets it hotter than any boiling water. We'll get into that. And then there's water bath canning, which the third one would also fall into that, which is steam canning, which we don't do steam canning, so I don't have any equipment for that. So each is separated by the level of acid within the food. So low acid foods must be pressure canned, and high acid foods can be water bath canned. That'd be your jams, jellies. You could do tomato sauce, but you also need to add a little bit of ascorbic acid or citric acid to that. Carrots, and so this is, and baked beans, all of that kind of stuff. That's really where you're going to roll here. But if you're just getting started, my suggestion is to start out just with the water bath canning. You don't have to have any of this. You can use whatever pot you have. The only rule is you have to be able to have 1.5 inches of water over the top of the jar, so it has to be high enough so that those jars can sit in there, so that it can, and have enough headspace so that it can sit there and boil, and get up to the 212 degrees that boiling water is. So regardless what canning you do in the water bath canning, regardless, you have to have something between the bottom of the pot and the inside of the pot, and your jars would sit on here and lift it up off the bottom. So you don't want it sitting on the bottom. There are there are a lot of different ones of these. This happens to be a flat one that goes in this blue guy here. I also have this so that I could do up 7 jars, and it kind of holds them together, so they don't move around or anything. This guy here is if I'm doing quarts or pints or whatever. It's flat, so I can do pints and half pints and stuff without it being all messed up. And this guy here, if I'm doing just quarts, I like this because it'll hold these quarts together because it has these raised dividers in there. These really are kind of a pain when you're dealing with like a half quart or those little quarter quart jars. But these are totally awesome for quarts. So if you're not sure if you want to, really get into canning, everybody has a regular pot, right? And this is just a steamer rack, and it keeps it up off of the bottom. You can take and put, 5 or 6 half pints probably in here. The only issue is you have to make sure that you have enough head space for the water up above it and for it still to boil. So, 1.5 to 2 inches of head space is perfect, at minimum 1, but I like to have 1.5 to 2 inches. And you could totally do quarter pints in here easily, and half pints. I'm not so sure that we'd have enough head space or not, but you could totally do those little quarter pints. That's like the size of a jelly jar that you'd normally get for a gift. They're like this tall. They're little. So you'd totally be able to do that in this. Okay, so I'm going to go over these pots really quick. These are water bath canning pots. So there's this small guy. You can see down in here. I put the bottom in there, the rack when I started up here, and so this you can do about 6 or 7 half pints or 8 ounces, whichever way you want to look at it, and you can still just barely get that 1.5 to 2 inches of headspace. But most jelly recipes, you're going to get 6 or so half pints anyway, so you can totally do it in this little guy. But just keep in mind that that's really all it's going to hold, but it's a good starting point. Okay, so this is a 21.5 quart pot. This thing is huge. This is the All-Star when it comes to water bath canning for us, other than the next one that I'll go over. So we these typically come with racks. So for me, just make sure that it's a rack that's flat. The other one, if you're going to be doing quartz, is just fine. But this comes where, you know, it'll rest up on the top so that you can put everything on there, and then you can lower it all into the pot. And when you pull it out, you can take them out of the pot. I typically just grab them out and I leave this in here, and I put the jars in there and just move forward. And that's how I do it. Again, you could do quartz and definitely get over that 1.5 to 2 inches of water over the top of them in this big guy. So last year we really got into canning. So we already had all of the, we already had the other canning type pots. But then I saw this on a few videos that I saw, and this thing is super versatile. And so we use this for many parts, many things. We've created broth in this, because you can have it down, you can see here on the dial, you can keep it low and you can cook. We made onion broth and it cooked for like 1.5 days or 2 days, and it just sat there and slowly simmered it, and it's absolutely amazing. We'll have to do a video on that next time we need it. But this just plugs into the wall, so you're not taking up any cooktop space or anything. So this thing's really versatile. You can heat, it can heat up all your jars and stuff, because one thing to keep in mind, hot water, hot jars, hot food, it's all hot, especially if you're hot packing. Everything needs to be hot. Those jars have to be roasting hot. The food has to be roasting hot, and what it's going into has to be roasting hot. And so this pot has this handy dandy spigot over here, so you can set it next to the sink. Let's say you have this full of water, you don't have to go, traipsing it across the kitchen or anywhere. You can just open this up and drain it into the sink, which is really nice. When we did broth, it was really nice because you had it right next to the sink. We just put the jar underneath it and ran it through a strainer and put it right straight into the jar. It was absolutely awesome. So this is the new addition. I really, they're not cheap. They're over $100, so it's not cheap. You should be able to pick up either of these for 30 or 40 bucks pretty easily, maybe even 25. This guy's made by Ball, so it's from the folks that make most of the jars and lids and all that stuff that we use to do our canning. So now that we're done with really going over it, and again, this is just a quick overview, the water bath canning part, we'll move over here to the pressure canning and go through some tools, and we'll go from there. So we have the All-American canner. We have the 915, and it'll fit 7 quarts, or I think 10 pints maybe. I can't remember right offhand. But anyway, this thing is not cheap. This is going to be generational, I'll tell you right now, because one of my kids will end up with this. And it's built sturdy, it's built strong, it's built in the United States of America in Wisconsin. So I love this canner. There's also the Presto, and that'd be the only other one that I know anything about, which is this much of that canner. But there are pressure canners out there. Keep in mind, a pressure cooker is not a pressure canner. Pressure cookers will cook your food very nicely and do it under pressure. It will not pressure can your food. So, as far as I know, as of right now, I don't know of one that has been approved for home canning. So with pressure canning, this is a dual gauge. Okay, so there are different ones. So some only have this gauge, and they'll tell you exactly what pressure that gauge should be at. This also has what's known as a weighted gauge, and this is all determined by your altitude. So where we live, you know, we're at like 300 feet or something. We can at 10 pounds of pressure, but you can see there's a 10, a 15, and a 5. I still haven't figured out what the 5s were. So I know there are a lot of people that are worried about, you know, the pressure canner is going to blow up and any of this stuff. But really, folks, they're safe. They're really safe. Here, this is the emergency evacuation hole is what I call it. I'm sure that it's called something else, but when it hits 20 pounds of pressure, that thing's going to blow out, and it's not going to blow up, but you don't ever want to be there. It's going to release that pressure so that, you know, it's not going to blow up. It can't blow up. So what you do is you select whatever your weight was, and we'll have other canning videos. This is going to be really quick. So you need to vent this for 10 minutes, and again, we'll go over it. This goes on there, and we'll go over that in a canning video. And you can see in here, you know, water deposits and all that stuff. It doesn't matter how soft or hard your water is. You're going to have some that, remember, this has been under pressure for however long. You know, some things, you know, you're up to an hour and a half that this thing's under pressure, and you're just not going to get away with this no matter how soft or hard your water is. So a lot of times when we do our pressure canning, when you wipe the rims, we do it with vinegar, which pretty much everybody does, and we just dump the rest, you know, whatever's left in here, and it helps to alleviate that. But this will get darker and darker and darker. That's just, this hasn't been used a whole lot, so it's still got a lot of battle scars that are going to come out. Okay, so the way that the All-American works, you line up these little tabs here. You can see here, see how that's on the other side, and you just line that bad boy up and make it so that these are lined up so that this can come up through here. And, you know, you make it as even as you can. It doesn't take a whole lot. It'll straighten itself out, really. Some folks are, you know, picky about how it goes, but then you screw these on opposite each other and tighten that down when you're ready to get, you know, when you're ready to get rocking. And again, we'll be going over this in a video. So you just go all the way around, you know, put them down pretty good, and then you'd be off and rocking to the races. So after we're done with the canning session, we'll, you know, obviously we take these off and then we open it. But just keep in mind, you'll want to, you know, when all of this stuff comes down and you can actually touch it, you're going to want to take and clean this all up, you know, like right away. You don't want it sitting around with water in it for 2 days, and you don't want any of that, even overnight. You want to have it clean, and then we've always just kept the package that this came, you know, the weighted gauge came in, and we just keep it all together in here. And so that the next canning session we have, we have everything ready right here. It's the same thing with the water bath canning stuff, you know. In here I keep all of the information and the different things that are available for it. I keep it all together, all clean, all ready to go, the plug, everything. And then this just sets up on the shelf until we're ready to do it. All of those racks and everything sit in those. And actually that little guy sits inside of that one when it's out there on the shelf as well. So if you're getting anything from this video, if you'd like, and share and subscribe and all that stuff, hit the bell. That would be awesome. If not, let me know why. So yeah, we purchased these all separately, but they have a bundle together where, you know, it comes with the jar lifter, the ladle, the funnel, all this stuff. It's like $19.99. I know that that's a pretty good thing, but remember, this is really, all of this is an investment to be able to, get yourself in a food secure position. So one thing I will share with you is this jar lifter here. Notice that it's spring loaded, right? This guy here, this is what we used to use, and you can get pretty good at being able to make it work, but this is a pain in the rear end. If you have it and you use it and you're good with that, that's cool. But I will tell you right now, this jar lifter is awesome. So I figured I'd demonstrate. So this guy's already open. You put it over it, you grab it, you can pull it, put it wherever. This guy here, when it's closed or whatever, you gotta open it and it'll still work. I've done this for a while, so it's kind of like chopsticks, right? You got to be able to manipulate it. But if you already have these, that's all good. But consider if you need a new pair to take a look at these guys. Next is the funnel. You can use, they'll have wider mouth funnels. You don't want to use a funnel like doing oil or whatever, but it needs to fit inside of the jar, right? So I like this one because you can set this on here. So it has the marks, quarter, half, 3/4 inch. When you're filling these jars, each recipe will have its headspace. That's what you're looking at, is the headspace here. There's also another way to do it, and each one of these is a 1/4 inch. So you shove it into the jar here. That's quarter, half, 3/4, an inch. So headspace is the stuff that's in the jar here. You want it to come up to where it's at the bottom of this, or you can see here. Oops. You can see here. You can look through here and see that it's at a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch or any of this in here. So if it was a 1/4 inch, you want to do this in the material in here, the food that's in here. You want it to just touch that. You don't want it over. You don't want it under. You want it right there, because a 1/4 inch means a 1/4 inch, and a 1/2 inch means a 1/2 inch. You don't have to get crazy and say, oh my God, I have to take out a milliliter and a little squeeze. It's not that crazy, but you want it at that line. So when these come out, or they're getting ready to go in, because remember, hot, hot jar, hot food, hot canner. And that's because thermal shock. So you don't want this ice cold guy to go into a boiling, vat of water, or you don't want it to have boiling tomato sauce or whatever going into it, because then it'll, it has a chance of breaking, and it's not pretty. So Michelle, she likes this, so that and she uses this so she doesn't burn herself putting the lid on it before it goes into the canner. It's not going to let you get hot. It takes $5 maybe. And then it just has a magnet right on the end there, and that's for getting the lid up and putting it onto here without touching it or doing anything like that. Really, you don't use these too much anymore because the new lids don't necessarily use that, but it's available, and it usually comes in a pack anyway. And so the ladle, this thing's awesome. It'll sit on, I don't know, I don't have it, but it'll sit on the side of whatever thing you're cooking. And so you take that out, and you can either take it out of the side, up front, any of that stuff, and it will hold pretty much, it'll hold about half of this jar, and it'll go straight in, or probably about 2/3 of that jar. But yeah, this is totally awesome. This is totally awesome. I love this thing. So now we get to brass tacks and what we do with all this. So this, if you don't own any other book, own this book if you're going to be canning. Own this book. And it has everything if you want to do hamburger, if you want to do anything to can, it is in this book. And another resource is the National Center for Home Food Preservation, and they have a website. And those are the two go-to things. That's where all of these things have been tested and approved and really gone through. But if you don't own any other book, I would own this one. One more tip. I got this on Amazon. I think it was $15. I don't know that for sure, but it was like right around there. You can go up to Staples or one of those office places, and you can have this where they'll put the spiral bounding in there, and so you can get this all spiral bound and open it up and flip it around and do all that stuff. But you could also download this for free if you want to print it out from the USDA. It's out there and available. And in this book, it doesn't just go over, pressure canning or water bath. It contains all things canning. Back in the day, my mom and my grandma and folks did canning, and maybe the way that they were doing it isn't necessarily safe now. Food's different. There's all kinds of stuff that is way different. So definitely I just call this the Bible. Any recipe that we go get from some book or whatever, I go in here and I say, well, we're going to do this. Yep, it's within the guidelines and we can move forward. Otherwise, we need to make it so that it fits into this, because I don't want to kill somebody, and I don't want somebody to get sick from something I made. So that's where this comes in. We also have these are two of our favorite books as well. I'm going to take you to our really favorite book, but all of these they're tested and true recipes. They're from Ball. They're the folks that make all of this stuff, and even in these though, I will still go back to this book and say, does it conform to the guidelines? So these are two awesome books. You can get many recipes out of these. And now I'm going to go to our favorite book, and this is absolutely our favorite canning book. The author is absolutely a certified master food preserver, and she has amazing recipes in here. You definitely want to try this out when you can. So that's pretty much everything I have for you. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and I would love to answer any questions you have. If you're not subscribed yet, if you'd subscribe, that'd be great. Hit the like if you got something from this video, and we're running low on some of our stuff like carrots and beans, and we're going to be doing some pomegranate jelly, I believe. So there will be canning videos coming out here, in short order. And well, that's all we got today here at Big Valley Living. Thanks for coming by. If you got something out of this video and you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. If you got something out of it, hit like. We really appreciate it. Share with your friends if there's something in here that you can use. And we'll see you next time. See you later, everybody.